The Locket, Chapter 1, The Quota. Jacc Sok stared at the Excel sheet glowing on his laptop screen like a wound that wouldn't close. Red numbers everywhere. Another month of missed targets at Midwest Medical Supply. His boss's email subject line burned into his eyes. We need to talk. Friday, 9 a.m. 38 years old, 2 kids in private school, mortgage in Chicago's northwest suburbs, and he was 1 bad quarter from the street. He closed the laptop and rubbed his temples until they ached. For the first time, he felt something else in the room with him, a faint, wet humming that came from nowhere and everywhere, like a woman singing through a throat full of blood. He told himself it was the radiator. It wasn't. Chapter 2. The text, 2:17 a.m. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Ricky, old college roommate, now a slick real estate closer. Southside Pawn Shop, behind the old butcher on 47th. They got something that makes people say yes. Saved my ass last year. Go tomorrow. Don't overthink it. Jacc stared at the message until the screen timed out. Then he typed back one word. Where? The moment he hit send, the humming returned, softer, closer, as if the thing that would soon own him was already pleased he had taken the first step toward feeding it. Chapter 3. The Alley. Wet snow mixed with sleet stung his face. The alley reeked of rotting garbage and motor oil. A single bulb swung above a faded sign, Curio and Relic. The door creaked open before he knocked. Inside, the air felt thick and alive, like breathing inside a lung made of old skin. The Skinner was already watching from the shadows between the shelves. Chapter 4. The offer inside smelled of old books and copper pennies. The owner, thin, pale, eyes like cloudy marbles, didn't greet him. He simply reached under the counter and placed a tarnished silver locket on black velvet. 2,000. Cash. Jacc laughed once, sharp and hollow. For what? For people to listen when you talk, the owner said, but his voice carried an extra layer now, as if something ancient and hungry was using his tongue. The thing inside has been waiting for a man desperate enough to wear it. It's called the Skinner. It eats ambition and wears the men who feed it. Chapter 5. The Coins. 2 old silver dollars slid across the glass. Flip them, both same side. She has to agree. Jack's fingers trembled. First coin spun and landed heads. Second followed. The owner's mouth stretched into something that wasn't quite a smile. The moment both coins showed heads, the locket grew warm against the velvet, as if the Skinner inside had just taken its first breath in years. Chapter 6. The Purchase. He wired the money from his retirement account while standing in the dim shop. The owner wrapped the locket in red cloth and handed it over without another word. Jacc slipped it around his neck in the car. The metal felt cold, then strangely warm, then alive, pulsing like a second heart made of wet meat. The Skinner had found its new coat. Chapter 7. The First Yes. Next morning, 8:45 a.m., the chief of surgery at Northwestern Memorial, man who had ghosted him for 18 months, opened his office door personally. Jacc Sok, come in. Coffee? By 11:30, 2 six-figure purchase orders were signed. No negotiation, no pushback. Jacc felt a rush of power, but underneath it was the faint taste of blood in his mouth and the distant sound of a woman screaming while something peeled her alive. The Skinner was already tasting its first meal through him. Chapter 8. The Surge. 3 days, 3 massive contracts. Commission checks started hitting his account like slot machine jackpots. His boss called him the Golden Boy. Colleagues whispered about luck, about hidden talent. Jacc smiled through every meeting, the locket heavy under his shirt, but at night he heard the humming grow louder inside his chest, the Skinner feeding, growing stronger, wrapping itself around his soul like strips of fresh skin. Chapter 9. Night 3. He woke at 3:12 a.m. to a woman standing at the foot of the bed, white gown stained brown at the edges, skin peeling in long wet ribbons from her cheeks. She leaned forward. "Why won't you let me go?" Jacc screamed. His wife slept through it. When he looked in the mirror, fresh bruises circled his ribs like handprints. In the dream that followed, he saw the Skinner for the first time, an ancient thing older than Chicago itself, a demon that had crawled out of the dark between worlds during the 1893 World's Fair. It had promised Emily Voss power. Instead, it had turned her into its vessel, feeding on every desperate soul she touched. Chapter 10. The Smell Day 7. A sweet, meaty rot followed him everywhere. Only he could smell it. His wife asked why he kept showering 3 times a day. He lied about stress sweat. At night, the bruises multiplied, finger marks on his throat, palm prints on his stomach. The Skinner was testing how much of his body it could claim, peeling tiny invisible strips of him away and replacing them with itself. Chapter 11. The Dreams Begin. In sleep, he was strapped down. Gas lamps hissed. A man in a blood-soaked apron, the Skinner's final client in 1893, hummed a slow tune while he worked the straight razor. Skin came away in long curling strips from Emily Voss's living body over 9 horrific days. The demon poured itself into every ribbon, turning her agony into power. The woman on the table never stopped asking, why? Jacc woke gasping, tasting copper. New bruises matched the razor's handle exactly. The Skinner was showing him its birth. Chapter 12. Paralysis. One night he couldn't move. Weight crushed his chest. Cold hands slid under his ribs. The smell choked him. A voice right inside his ear whispered, "You're wearing me, Jacc. Piece by piece, I'm coming home." He lay there for 47 minutes before the pressure lifted. A perfect hand-shaped bruise bloomed across his abdomen. The voice belonged to the Skinner, now fully merged with Emily's soul. A skin eater that replaces desperate men from the inside out, using their ambition like fertilizer for its own endless hunger. Chapter 13. The garage underground parking lot, midnight. Rearview mirror fogged without warning. A handprint pressed from the inside. The back seat was empty, but the whisper came anyway. Why? Jacc threw the car into reverse. Tires screamed. Metal crumpled against concrete. The Locket seared his chest like dry ice while the Skinner laughed inside his skull, delighted that its new host was finally starting to break. Chapter 14. The Empty Shop. He drove back to the south side at dawn. The building was charred black. Police tape sagged across the doorway. A board officer sipping coffee told him the owner had been found last summer, skinned alive. No suspects. No Locket recovered. The Skinner had already moved on to its next coat, Jacc, and had burned its old doorway behind it. Chapter 15. Alone. Jacc sat in his car outside the ruins for 3 hours. The Locket pulsed against his sternum like a second heartbeat made of someone else's suffering. He realized he had never really been alone since the night he flipped those coins. The Skinner had been riding shotgun in his soul the entire time, whispering promises of success while sharpening its razor. Chapter 16. The Medium. A late-night Reddit thread led him to a crooked Victorian house on the north side, black velvet curtains. The woman who opened the door took one look at him and stepped back. "You're carrying something dead, something ancient. It's been wearing people since the 1890s. It calls itself the Skinner." Chapter 17. The Circle Candlelight. Salt and iron nails formed a ring on the hardwood floor. She placed the Locket inside. The flames turned blue. Her head snapped back. Eyes rolled white. A new voice poured out, wet, furious, ancient. "My name was Emily Voss, 1893. I summoned the Skinner during the World's Fair. It promised me power over desperate men. Instead, it merged with me when the doctor harvested my skin alive for 9 days. Every strip he cut became a doorway for the demon. It has been wearing men like coats ever since." Chapter 18. The Truth. "You fed me your life so I could bend their minds. Every signature you got, I paid in screams. I hated you, but I needed a host." The possessed medium smiled with someone else's teeth. "The Skinner doesn't just haunt you, Jacc. It becomes you. It eats your ambition, wears your face, and leaves nothing but itself behind. You let me go? Cute. But the demon already lives under your skin." Chapter 19. The Ritual. 3:33 a.m., back at the burned-out pawn shop. Jacc cut his palm. Blood dripped onto the silver while he spoke the only words that mattered. "I'm sorry I wore you. I'm sorry I used you. I release you, Emily Voss. Go home." The medium drove a railroad spike through the Locket. Silver shattered. A freezing wind howled through the ruins, carrying lilies and decay. For 1 second, Jacc saw her, whole, beautiful, watching him from the shadows. Then the wind turned into laughter. The Skinner had never been in the Locket. It had been inside Jacc the whole time. Chapter 20. The Thing That Wears. Jacc. 3 months passed in eerie silence. The bruises were gone. The rotting smell had vanished from his clothes and skin. Jacc closed the biggest deal of his career, a 7-figure contract with Rush University Medical Center that made him the top salesman in the Midwest. His wife planned a vacation to Maui. His kids looked at him like a hero again. But every single night at exactly 3:33 a.m., Jacc woke up, not from nightmares, from the humming. A soft, wet, feminine humming that came from inside his own chest, vibrating against his ribs like a second heartbeat made of wet meat. Tonight was different. He sat up in bed, drenched in sweat. The humming was louder, closer, as if it were crawling up his throat. His wife slept peacefully beside him, completely unaware. Jacc slipped out of bed and walked to the bathroom on legs that felt too long, too thin. He turned on the light. The mirror showed something that made his blood freeze solid. His reflection was smiling. He wasn't. A thin layer of skin on his neck had started to peel back in a perfect circle, exactly where the locket used to rest. Underneath wasn't muscle or bone. It was pale, glistening new skin that didn't belong to him, smooth and wrong, like the belly of something that had never seen daylight. Tiny threads of it were already stitching themselves into his own flesh, pulsing faintly. Then the voice spoke, not in his ear, but from behind his own eyes, using the inside of his skull as a speaker. "You never really let me go, Jacc. You only moved me." Jacc gripped the sink so hard the porcelain cracked. The Skinner revealed everything in a flood of images and words that burned straight into his brain. I was never just Emily Voss. In 1893, I was a medium during the World's Columbian Exposition. Crowds of desperate people came to me, gamblers, businessmen, politicians, all begging for an edge. I opened a door I should never have touched. I summoned something ancient from the dark between worlds, a skin eater, a demon older than this city, older than the first corpse buried in its mud. It calls itself the Skinner. It feeds on suffering and stolen ambition. It wears human desperation like a coat. I thought I could control it. I was wrong. The doctor who took my skin was no ordinary madman. He was my final client. While he peeled me alive over 9 days, strapped naked to a steel table under gas lamps, he hummed that same tune you hear in your dreams. Day 1, arms. Day 2, legs. Day 3, back. He kept me conscious the entire time with his chemicals. Each strip he cut, the Skinner poured itself into. My screams became its power. My terror became its doorway. By the 9th day, when he rolled the last bloody ribbon of me into that silver locket, I begged the Skinner to save me. It did. By merging with what was left of my soul, I stopped being Emily. I became something worse, a demon of desire. I wear desperate men like coats. I crawl inside their ambition and hollow them out from the inside until nothing is left but me. You gave me your life force willingly when you wore that locket. You fed me every time you smiled while doctors signed contracts they never should have signed. Their free will died so your bank account could live. Every bruise you woke up with was me tasting you. Every whisper of why was me reminding you that the price was already being collected. The ritual, the blood, and the spike? Cute. It only broke the silver prison. But I had already grown roots inside you months earlier. A piece of my original skin is now grafted under your own, like a parasite wearing your face from the inside out. Feel it? Jacc clawed at his neck. Something moved beneath the surface, something wet and alive, sliding like a snake under his flesh. He felt it pulse in time with his heartbeat. I don't need the locket anymore, the voice purred, using his own vocal cords now so the words came out of his own mouth in the mirror. I have you. Soon the peeling will spread. Your wife will wake up one morning to find your face hanging off like a discarded mask, still warm, still blinking. And underneath, it will be me smiling back at her with your teeth. I will wear your life perfectly. I will close bigger deals. Fuck your wife Kimberly better. Raise your children. No one will ever know the man they loved is gone, because I will be better at being Jacc Sok than you ever were. That's what I truly am, Jacc. Not a ghost, not a tortured woman. I am the Skinner, the thing that replaces you, the demon that lives in the space between what you want and what you are willing to pay. And I'm almost finished. The lights flickered. For one horrifying second in the mirror, Jack's face slid slightly to the left, like a rubber mask slipping off a skull, revealing raw, bloody muscle, glistening sinew, and a second set of eyes staring out from behind his own, black, ancient, and starving. They blinked slowly, then the face snapped back into place with a wet sucking sound. The humming returned, softer now, content, satisfied. Jack stared at his reflection as a single tear rolled down his cheek. His reflection smiled wider, leaned forward, and licked it off the glass with a tongue that was too long, too black at the tip. Some prices aren't paid in money, they're paid in skin, and the Skinner always collects in full. Jack turned off the light. In the dark, the humming followed him back to bed, and for the first time, he hummed along. Chapter 21, The Last Contracts. Jacc Sok closed the biggest deal of his career. Jack's beautiful wife, Kimberly Sok, she congrats him with a hug and a kiss. I'm so proud of you, Jack. Kimmy said it with a seductive look. Before the coffee even got cold, Rush University Medical Center signed for $8 million without reading a single clause. The Skinner drank it all in, swelling inside his veins like black tar. Jack's hands signed the papers, but the smile on his face wasn't his. He blinked and found himself in the parking garage again, blood on his knuckles, no memory of the drive. The demon's voice slithered through his skull. I was born in the blood-soaked mud beneath the 1893 World's Fair. I wear men until their souls rot away. You're almost gone, Jack. I can taste the last of you. He tried to scream, but only a soft, wet hum came out of his throat, the same tune the doctor had hummed while peeling Emily Voss alive. Chapter 22, The Mind Unravels. Days bled into one another. Jack would wake up in the middle of a presentation, voice smooth and confident, closing impossible contracts while his real mind screamed from a shrinking corner of his brain. He forgot his children's names for hours at a time. He stared at his own reflection and watched the eyes blink a half second too late. The Skinner was erasing him piece by piece, feeding on every lie, every stolen signature, every moment of false success. In the quiet seconds between blackouts, Jack felt the ancient thing laughing. I have worn 100 desperate men. Their wives never knew. Their children called me daddy until I peeled them too. Your turn is almost over. Chapter 23, The Blindfold. That night, Kimmy blindfolded herself with black silk and whispered, "Make me feel alive again, baby." She had no idea what was wearing her husband. The Skinner took the wheel. What uncoiled from Jack's mouth was not a tongue. It was a thick, glistening black serpent of flesh, cold as grave soil, ridged and pulsing, stretching nearly 2 feet long. It dragged slowly across Kimmy's blindfolded face, leaving trails of icy slime that smelled of lilies and opened graves. It licked her eyelids, forced its way between her lips, curled around her tongue, slid down her throat until she gagged with pleasure. Kimmy screamed in ecstasy so loud the neighbors probably heard, body convulsing, soaking the sheets. "Oh God, Jack, don't stop, please, fuck!" She came so hard she nearly passed out, sobbing with joy. Inside his own skull, the last fragments of Jacc Sok watched in helpless horror, tears streaming down the inside of his eyes. Chapter 24, Morning Confession. The next morning, Kimmy floated through the house glowing, cheeks flushed, eyes wet with leftover lust. She kissed Jack's cold neck and whispered, "That was the best fuck of my entire life. Your tongue, I've never felt anything like it. I swear I saw God last night." She giggled like a schoolgirl and turned toward the kitchen. "I'm making your favorite omelets, extra cheese, just how my perfect husband likes them." Jack's body followed her, but the man inside was almost gone, only a faint sobbing whisper trapped behind the Skinner's smile. Chapter 25, The Kitchen Door. Kimmy stood at the stove, humming, back turned, cracking eggs. "We should do the blindfold thing every single night from now on," she said cheerfully. "I've never loved you more than I do right now." Jack, or what wore him, stood in the doorway. His face twitched violently. A single thick drop of blood slid from his left eye like a tear made of ink. The Skinner had decided the coat was finished. The skin at Jack's hairline split open with a sound like wet Velcro tearing. Chapter 26. The Peeling. The ripping grew louder, obscene. Kimmy kept talking, smiling, whisking coffee creamer. "Baby, you're so quiet this morning. Cat got your tongue after last night?" Jack's cheeks split down the middle like overripe fruit. Long sheets of his face peeled away in bloody curtains, slapping wetly onto the tile floor. His nose slid off. His lips hung like discarded meat. Blood poured in heavy ropes, pooling around his shoes. His real eyes, wide, terrified, still human, stared out for one final second before the Skinner shoved forward. Jack's body collapsed in a boneless heap, empty skin suit crumpling like a discarded costume, blood spreading in a dark lake across the kitchen floor. Chapter 27. The True Face Emerges. The thing that unfolded from the ruined body was the Skinner in its naked, ancient form. 7 feet tall, skeletally thin, glistening red muscle stretched over black bones. Its eyes were huge, lidless orbs the size of fists, pure void that swallowed light. Its mouth split ear to ear in a permanent razor grin lined with needle teeth. Bloody strips of Jack's face still dangled from its shoulders like party streamers. It took one dripping step forward, leaving red footprints. This was the demon that had crawled out of the 1893 darkness, the skin eater that had worn Emily Voss while she screamed for 9 days, the thing that had replaced 100 husbands and fathers and left their families smiling at monsters. It was finally home. Chapter 28. The Last Kiss. The Unholy Ecstasy. Kimmy still faced the stove, oblivious, flipping the omelet. "You okay back there, babe? You're awfully quiet." The Skinner stepped right behind her. Its clawed fingers, long, wet, ice cold, slid around her waist exactly like Jack used to, cold lips pressed against the side of her neck, kissing with obscene tenderness. Kimmy sighed, eyes fluttering shut in pleasure. That's the spot. You're so hungry for me today." The demon's hands roamed lower, rougher, tearing her robe open with one casual flick of its claws. Kimmy gasped, but didn't pull away. She leaned back into the cold, bloody frame, moaning softly as razor-sharp nails traced circles over her breasts, drawing thin red lines that beaded with blood. The Skinner lifted her effortlessly, spun her around, and pressed her back against the counter. The omelet pan hissed and smoked behind her, forgotten. Its mouth opened impossibly wide, the black tongue uncoiled again, thicker now, ridged like a nightmare cock, dripping cold slime that burned where it touched. It forced its way between her thighs, parting her legs with brutal gentleness. Kimmy's eyes snapped open. She saw it. Saw the towering red skeleton of a thing that had once been her husband, saw the void black eyes, the grinning maw, the bloody strips of Jack's face still clinging to its shoulders. For one heartbeat, pure terror flooded her face. Then the tongue plunged inside her, deep, deeper than anything human could reach. It curled and writhed, filling her completely, stroking places no man had ever touched. The ridges dragged against every sensitive wall, the cold slime mixing with her own heat, creating a slick, burning friction that made her vision white out. Kimmy's mouth opened in a silent scream that turned into a guttural moan. Her hands clawed at the demon's shoulders, nails digging into wet muscle, pulling it closer instead of pushing away. Tears streamed down her face, but they weren't from fear anymore. The pleasure was so overwhelming it felt like dying. Her hips bucked against the demon's mouth, grinding desperately. The tongue fucked her relentlessly, thick, cold, endless, stretching her, filling her, owning her. Her pussy clenched around it, soaked, dripping down her thighs in hot rivulets mixed with the demon's black slime. She came once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession, each orgasm ripping through her like lightning, leaving her sobbing, shaking, begging for more. The Skinner laughed, a low, wet, gurgling sound that vibrated straight through her core. It lifted her higher, pinned her against the cabinets, and drove the tongue deeper still, curling it inside her until she felt it in her stomach. Kimmy's head fell back, eyes rolling white, mouth open in a continuous wail of ecstasy. She didn't care that Jack was dead on the floor behind them. She didn't care that blood was everywhere. All that mattered was the unbearable, unholy pleasure tearing her apart from the inside. She came again, so hard her bladder released in a hot rush down her legs, and still begged for more, voice hoarse, broken, utterly surrendered. The demon drank every drop of her surrender. Chapter 29. The Tongue and the Takeover. The Skinner finally withdrew its tongue with a slow, obscene slurp. Kimmy slumped against the counter, legs trembling, chest heaving, pussy still clenching around nothing, dripping onto the bloody floor. Her eyes were glassy, pupils blown wide, lips swollen and bruised. She reached for the monster with shaking hands, whispering, "More, please, I need—" The demon smiled wider. Then it struck. The tongue plunged one final time, not between her legs, but straight down her throat. Kimmy's eyes bulged. Her body jerked violently. The black serpent forced its way deeper, deeper, until it filled her lungs, her stomach, her very soul. Her heart hammered once, twice, then seized in a crushing spasm. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, could only choke on the demon as it poured itself inside her like liquid night, ripping her consciousness out in bloody tatters and stuffing its ancient hunger into every cell. Her skin rippled violently. Her eyes rolled pure black for 3 endless seconds. Then they snapped back, only now they were the Skinner's eyes, cold, ancient, satisfied. The new Kimberly Sock stepped neatly over Jack's crumpled, bleeding corpse. She adjusted her torn robe, wiped a smear of her husband's blood from her thigh with casual indifference, and finished plating the omelets. She called upstairs in the exact same loving voice Kimmy had always used. "Breakfast is ready, kids. Come eat before it gets cold." She smiled at her reflection in the toaster. Perfect, warm, motherly. A thin trickle of black slime leaked from the corner of her mouth. She licked it away with a tongue that was suddenly too long. Somewhere deep inside her new skin, the Skinner laughed a wet, endless laugh that would never stop. It had fresh meat now, a mother's body, a wife's life, 2 children upstairs who would never see their real parents again. And the worst part? They would love the monster more than they had ever loved the people it replaced, because the pleasure it gave them would be unholy, and they would beg for more. Some things don't just die, they move in, they fuck you until you break, and they never, ever leave.